I'm not sure how many of you guys remember this, but a while ago, a question that I used to get asked pretty frequently was, if I could add a new champion to League of Legends, what sort of champion would I design? The idea I always answered with would be, I'd design some sort of thief champion who interacted with gold in a new kind of way. Like maybe a character who had a new passive, where his passive would deal a little extra damage and steal 10 gold when he autoed another champion, and that could maybe have a 10-second cooldown or something. Now, I don't know if that specific ability would be viable, if that would be balanced, or if that would be overpowered, those specific numbers, but you can see the idea that I'm getting at. I think champions in League of Legends, specifically new champions, are at their best and most interesting when they can interact with the game in a way that no other champion can. This doesn't always have to be the case for every single character released into the game. I'm not suggesting that you have all however many champions, 140 characters. I'm not saying they should all have abilities that no other characters have anything like them, but I think the more memorable and interesting designs are the ones who bring something new to the table. This sort of unrestricted design when it comes to new ideas was one of the things that distinguished League from Dota back in the day. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is because of Ornn, the recently released champion who does exactly what I'm talking about in a super interesting way that's fun to play with. A lot of players are giving him a pretty hard time because of his very poor win rates at the moment, but I honestly think he's a really good champion, or if not good, he's at least super interesting and fun to play around with. When you go through a normal game of League of Legends and you're buying your items give you power, as it were. Like, power is different for each champion. Sometimes if you're playing a tank, then power is tank stats. If you're playing a DPS character, then power is damage per second. Or if you're playing a support, then power is like cooldown reduction to get your abilities off more often, or maybe AP to have stronger shields or something. But either way, gold spent translates into power in one form or another as players buy their items. If we were to chart the gold spent by length of a game, then a typical game for the average champion is going to look something like this. This is an Aurelia game I played recently, and if you see these stats, you can see that the power spikes are relatively spread out. For the most part, I only recall to buy an item when it's either a very big buy for some sort of major power spike that I just hit, or sometimes it's if I'm dead and I'm forced to spend my gold, because why wouldn't I? Other than that though, I really want to recall as infrequently as possible so I can spend as much time as possible in laning phase, just getting more gold and experience to level myself further. Now let's compare that Aurelia chart to the chart of an Ornn game I played recently. This was a ranked game where I was playing Ornn top lane up against Pantheon, and you can already see things are much different. Because Ornn can buy from anywhere on the map, he's able to get every single component item needed for a big item that he's building into, allowing for a much smoother power curve, where he gets these really interesting power spikes. Right here, my opponent hasn't recalled to base yet, but because they haven't recalled and spent all their gold, it's as if they haven't earned that gold in the first place, whereas I'm able to buy items and get a weird power spike even though we're on even gold. I mean, this is something that I've never seen before on any champion in League of Legends, I don't think. A good example of what I mean is if you pay attention to my early laning build against Pantheon in this game, you'll see something very strange. Normally, if you're playing against a Pantheon as a melee top laner, you always want to start off with a Dorn's Shield for your first item. Dorn's Shield is this great overpowered item right now where it's so good for sustaining and surviving his poke. Pretty much everything Pantheon's trying to do to you, you can use Dorn's Shield to mitigate all of that. So there really isn't a reason to go for anything else for your first item. However, because I'm playing Ornn and because I can stay in lane and buy items without recalling, I actually choose to go for a Corrupting Potion this match. Corrupting Potion is one of the few items that Ornn cannot build away from base, and with this sustain heavy item that always refills itself all throughout a match, I'm able to spend a lot more time out in lane buying my items from there and not losing out on experience and gold. I don't have to recall to heal because the Corrupting Potion heals me and I can just buy my item, so I get to stay in lane for a very long time, not having to recall, not having to lose out on experience, not having to lose out on gold, and not having to use teleport to get back to lane. Against a Pantheon, I'm able to buy a Cloth Armor, a Dorn's Shield, and continue stacking Cloth Armors and a Chain Vest as I build into my early Ninja Tabby and Sunfire Cape, pretty much guaranteeing that Pantheon cannot 1v1 me. Even though I go for a much weaker start where I'm super vulnerable for a while, it takes just like 10 CS, and then boom, suddenly I buy a Cloth Armor, and his window of opportunity for harass is gone because I now have 2 starting items. I mean, I actually managed to out-damage Pantheon and solo kill him 1v1 a few times throughout this this game, largely due to the fact that I have items that he doesn't, even though we're on even footing with gold. I mean, this is a really weird, interesting mechanic that I'm having a lot of fun playing around with at the moment. Giving a new champion an ability to interact with the game in a way that's different from every other champion out there, I mean, that's one of the best ways that you can keep the game fresh and give new, unusual playstyles that really make, I think that's what League of Legends is all about. I mean, all these different champions with different ways to play the game. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Jibei, isn't that a little hypocritical? I mean, in your last video, you were just criticizing Riot for the new Summoner spell swap, Keystone Rune. Why is this okay to change the game in such a fundamental way, while that isn't? And that's a fair point. But I would argue the difference here is that this is for one champion, giving an individual character a new way to interact with League of Legends, but keeping everyone else and all the old playstyles the same. When Riot introduces sweeping changes that completely change the fundamentals of the game for everyone, then naturally some players are going to get upset. A lot of people, myself included, enjoy League of Legends as it is right now and don't want to see everything upheaved. That's true for pretty much every game, honestly. I mean, you can look at any MMO or any online game that's changed throughout the years, and if you've changed the fundamentals of the game, people aren't going to like it all the time. But with a small subsection of the game, like individual champions, introducing new, unique mechanics that allow you to play them in slightly different ways while not changing everything else, I mean, that's really one of the things that makes League of Legends such a great game. I don't know how many of you remember this old story from Hotshot GG, but back before Hotshot, the owner of CLG, began playing League of Legends, he was a big Heroes of Newerth player. Han was the Dota clone before Dota 2 came out, for those of you who didn't know, so he was one of those elitist Dota players at the time that thought that, oh, League of Legends, it's such a baby game, I'm gonna play it and crush everybody, until he actually started playing and came up against a Mundo, where he saw Mundo, this champion who has no mana, he can just spam his abilities infinitely, and he got absolutely destroyed, saying that, you know, what the hell, this champion, he has no mana, this is stupid, he's so broken, why is this in the game, this game sucks. Until the next game, where he played Mundo himself, and of course, he didn't know how to play him, he got smashed, and he realized, oh, so even though this champion is completely different from the mechanics of how you normally play the game, that doesn't necessarily mean he's overpowered. This still takes a different kind of skill compared to how you would normally play a match. This is what I see with Ornn, and I could not be more excited to play around with him more. A lot of people are suggesting that he has a lot of problems with his kit, and currently I do think he has some problems, but I don't think any of them are as bad as people are making them out to be. His W is an incredibly good ability for a top laner to have. I mean, it's a Rumble Q and W put together, plus a new brittle effect that's super good. I mean, he has a kind of clunky kit, so it will take a little while for people to get used to him, but I do not think his win rate suggests that he's actually as bad of a champion as people are making it out to say that it suggests, and I'm really excited to see where Riot takes everything with him and other champions in the future like him. I'd love to see more of this stuff, and I hope that people start giving him more of a fair shot. Anyway, this was just a bit of a brief video giving some of my thoughts on Ornn. I hope you all enjoyed watching it. I'll hopefully have something a little bit more substantial out tomorrow, but until then, thank you very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.